Today's lesson on successful financial behaviors will focus on smart financial goals. We're going to begin with a discussion on financial well-being, and we'll start with a question. So, what good is having $1 million if you are not ready for it? So, without appropriate financial behaviors in place, if someone were to actually receive $1 million, they would quickly spend the money without creating lasting financial stability or growth. And this would very likely, if not definitely, result in the same or likely even worse financial positioning than they were before receiving the $1 million, because they would have additional stress, they'd have additional debt, they'd probably have a higher standard of living that they had to upkeep or wanted to maintain, etc. So, good financial behaviors are absolutely critical for not only creating wealth, but also for maintaining wealth and ensuring that it grows and provides actual long-term security and well-being. To achieve financial well-being, it is essential to establish and develop the fundamental financial behaviors that we've been discussing in our previous lessons. So as we cultivate these behaviors, we can advance through three key financial coping strategies. And remember, those are reactive, preventative, and proactive, each helping us to achieve critical milestones. First, eliminating debt, then building a robust emergency fund, and finally creating a passive income stream. The first milestone we're going to look at is a SMART goal for preparing to basically cope with the reactive portion of our financial behaviors. So a good milestone might be to eliminate any debt that we have. And for example, we'll say we're going to try to eliminate $10,000 in debt within 18 months. And if this is a house debt or something, we can still do that, but this might be more geared toward like a loan or a credit card debt. So in terms of a SMART goal, we will say that it is a $10,000 credit card debt that we're trying to repay. So again, in terms of SMART, it's going to be measurable because we're going to specifically reduce debt by, say, $555 per month over 18 months, and that is our time bound. So we have a goal of 18 months to complete this by, and of course it's relevant because reducing debt will obviously lower our financial stress and reduce our monthly expenses. In terms of an action plan, we can simply look at our budget and make any adjustments to allocate an extra $300 per month toward debt repayment by cutting non-essential expenses. And of course, that's going to be very important financial behavior. If we're going to be wealthy, we're going to have to cut non-essential expenses. We can also increase our income, and if we have opportunities to take on perhaps additional hours, or if we happen to get additional money, say from tax returns or other means, gifts, etc., we would use those funds to attack that debt as well. And then finally, for an action plan, we can use the debt avalanche method, one of my personal favorites. Not that I like to deal with debt at all, but if I did have debt, this is one of my favorite ways, I think is most effective. So we're going to pay off the quickest debt first, and whatever amount that we're paying on that, we're going to then the next month add that to the next debt. So we'll be paying whatever we were paying on the second debt plus what we had from the first debt. And by the time you're finished and paying off your last debt, you're making all the original payments from your previous debts on that final one, so it gets paid off very quickly. And of course, once we are done with that, we are not going to go back into debt. And that's going to help us solve that first coping behavior of reactive financial behaviors. After dealing with the reactive coping behaviors, the next milestone is going to be dealing with preventative coping behaviors. So our next SMART goal for preventative financial coping is going to be establishing an emergency fund. So this is a little more exciting than paying off debt, and so our goal might be a good one, would be to save $5,000 for an emergency fund within a 12-month period. So again, in terms of our SMART goal acronym, we will specifically save $5,000 for emergencies. For the measurable aspect, of course, we're going to be saving specific amounts, and that would be, I think, around $417 per month or so. This doesn't have to be exact, but I think that will get us there within 12 months. And then, is it achievable? Well, setting up automatic transfers to a separate savings account will get this job done. And then, of course, relevancy. Having an emergency fund will help us to cope with our financial issues in a preventative method without having to use debt, which would be reactive. And of course, this will be time bound in that we are attempting to complete this within 12 months. Of course, this can change a little bit, but we want to have guidelines in place. In regards to our action plan, we will set up automatic saving. That way, each month we will automatically transfer our $417 to a dedicated, specific emergency fund. So it's separate, and we would have to go there specifically if we had an emergency, so it's not just sitting in our overall savings account. Another part of the action plan would be to have a monthly budget review. Again, we're identifying any discretionary funds that we can reallocate to create this emergency fund a little bit quicker. And then a final part of the action plan would be any one-time contributions that we might be able to direct as we have any windfall, such as bonuses from our pay, or again, tax refunds or gifts. And these would go directly to the emergency fund. Now we can take on two of these SMART goals at once. So if you're paying off your debt, you could actually be establishing an emergency fund at the same time. Of course, if you don't have any debt, you can focus on the emergency fund, or if you want to wait until after your debt is paid off and then work on your emergency fund a little bit quicker. So you do have options, but I think you can do two at once if you want to. The final milestone that we're going to be discussing during this lesson is a SMART goal focused on proactive financial behaviors, coping behaviors. So our goal here is to create passive income, and I think an easy way to do this, you might feel comfortable with something else, but a really straightforward way to produce some passive income is through dividend stocks. So our SMART goal here is going to build a portfolio of dividend stocks that generate $200 per month in passive income within 5 years. So in terms of our SMART acronym, we are going to specifically create a portfolio that yields $200 per month in dividends. It's going to be measurable in that we will invest in dividend stocks to achieve an annual yield of about $2,400 a year. That would be $200 a month on average. It's achievable in that we can contribute, say $500 a month to our investment portfolio to invest in dividends, and we'll also be reinvesting our dividends into additional stocks with dividends. Of course, it's relevant in that generating passive income enhances our financial stability and allows us to proactively deal with financial coping needs. And of course, time bound, we'll set a goal of 5 years, and this may be done quicker. If you're more aggressive with it, it might take a little bit longer, but regardless, we're going to make some progress and we're going to learn some great lessons along the way. In terms of our action plan, we can first develop an investment strategy. We may very well need to research and select specific dividend stocks, and certainly a mix of those that pay dividends. And we can have a target of, say, around 4% annual returns on those dividends. So that varies, and you need to look into what you're doing there. So just because a stock has a very high dividend rate doesn't mean it's a good stock. So you'll have a little bit of research there to make sure you're comfortable with the stocks and the companies that you're investing in. Next, in our action plan, we're going to consistently contribute, say $500 a month into our investment portfolio to buy these dividend stocks with. And this can be plus or minus, of course, but you want to have something per month that you can consistently be investing with. And of course, part of the action plan is going to be to reinvest the dividends. So all dividends that we receive, we're going to also use those funds to buy additional dividend stocks. And then finally, in terms of an action plan, we're going to review our portfolio regularly in order to rebalance the portfolio to maintain the target yield and the diversification so we can minimize our risk in what we have invested in. We don't want to put all of our investments in just one stock or one industry. So as we wrap up today's lesson, remember that by setting these SMART goals to prepare, then prevent, and then proactively build your financial well-being, you're not only preparing yourself for financial challenges that you are going to have pop up here and there, but you're also proactively creating a sustainable source of income, which is very exciting. So this approach basically ensures that you have a comprehensive strategy all the way from not having to be reactive, then of course preventative measures, and all the way to proactive that will allow you to achieve long-term financial well-being. So again, keep this in mind, our three takeaways. First, without appropriate financial behaviors already in place, then financial well-being simply cannot be achieved. So if you were to have a windfall of money, but you weren't ready for it, it's going to evaporate because the behaviors that kept you where you were are going to keep you from being able to properly manage larger amounts of money. Now, by eliminating debt and creating an emergency fund, it's going to enable you to shift from reactive coping behaviors to more proactive financial management, which is certainly where we want to go. And then, interestingly, and we can say ironically, financial well-being is actually achieved when your finances generate more income than you require. So when you don't need more money is going to be when you are actually going to have more money. So it's a little upside down, but it has to be that way because you have to have the proper behaviors in place. And so once you get the appropriate behaviors in place, then you're going to have more money and you're not going to waste it or evaporate it. So again, an important takeaway as we finish up here, the behaviors that you put in place and create and grow, once you have more money, they cannot change. So once you, again, arbitrarily say $1 million, once you achieve $1 million, your behaviors can't change. So the very behaviors that got you there need to stay in place. So you can't spend more money because you have more money. Otherwise, we're going to start this process all over. So for action items, decide which SMART goals are most appropriate for your circumstances and tailor the action plans to your circumstances and set up the appropriate accounts to begin the necessary automatic behaviors that you need to put in place. Now, again, you can probably work on 2 of these at a time. If you want to focus on one, I certainly understand that. But let's say you had debt. You could be attacking the debt while you start to slowly also develop an emergency account. If you have no debt, you can be building up your emergency account while you also start to slowly invest in some dividend stocks. So you can certainly focus on one, or you can possibly do 2. You really shouldn't do all 3 at once. So if you have debt, that's where your focus needs to be. There's no need to be investing if you have debt, but you can work on 2 at one time if you choose to. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and remember, we're shaping your future one behavior at a time. Have a wonderful week.